Symbology of the Bible. Voyager 1. There have been some very interesting developments in the astronomy/astrophysics/cosmology disciplines recently. One of them is the behavior of NASA's Voyager 1 probe. It has completed its primary mission to survey our planets and is now en route to interstellar space outside of our system, as shown in the picture below. The heliopause is the boundary between solar radiation and interstellar space.
The heliopause is the theoretical boundary, where the sun's solar wind is stopped by the interstellar medium. It marks the outermost edge of the heliosphere, a giant bubble of charged particles and magnetic fields, blown into space by the sun. From the AI Overview, February 23, 2026, 9:53.
After crossing the heliopause, there were two events that were unexpected. One, a region of high-energy plasma was encountered, and 2, the Voyager 1 communications system malfunctioned. Regarding the plasma, we have this information.
Voyager's instruments detected a surprising rise in both the temperature and density of particles as it crossed this frontier. Scientists have aptly named this region the Wall of Fire, a massive burst of energetic particles creating a cosmic heat wave at the solar system's edge.
Beyond the heliopause, charged particles from distant stars flow freely, unaffected by the sun's power. For many years, researchers theorized that this edge would be cold and sparse, but Voyager 1's findings have upended that notion.
The detected wall of fire isn't actually fire as we know it. It's a dense buildup of charged particles moving at nearly the speed of light, slamming into each other in this low-density region, heating it to insanely high temperatures.
Temperatures reaching around 54,000 degrees Fahrenheit sound catastrophic, but the NASA team clarifies, this isn't heat that would burn up a spacecraft. Instead, these temperatures measure the kinetic energy of particles racing through space at staggering speeds. In this extremely thin plasma, collisions are rare, so Voyager 1 is safe to cruise through this fiery frontier like a, quote, cosmic champion, unquote. This wall creates a secondary boundary or bubble around the solar system, in addition to the heliopause. It is essentially a part of the boundary that protects the solar system from harmful high-energy particles. The wall is essentially a complex, multi-layer transition zone, as described below.
1. Compression. Solar wind hits the interstellar medium, creating a shock wave. 2. Heating. This collision superheats the local plasma, the wall of fire. 3. Neutral accumulation. At the same time, neutral hydrogen atoms that aren't affected by magnetic fields pile up in the same area, creating the hydrogen wall. Together, these layers act as a border checkpoint, with the superheated plasma and magnetic fields deflecting roughly 70% of high-energy cosmic rays before they can enter our solar system. From the AI Overview, February 23, 2026, 9:53.
This plasma wall introduces another element to the Goldilocks scenario, where a planet needs to be at a certain distance from its star to be able to host life, as we know it. Since it is expected to surround other star systems, the stellar wind within the system must also be in a Goldilocks range, so that the wall will shield the system and be far enough away from the host planet. This wall appears to be another component supporting the view that our solar system was designed to host organic life, as we know it, as opposed to being a random structure. The other recent development with the Voyager-1 probe involves communications.
Since November 2023, NASA's Voyager-1 spacecraft has been sending a steady radio signal to Earth, but the signal does not contain usable data. The source of the issue appears to be with one of three onboard computers, the Flight Data Subsystem (FDS), which is responsible for packaging the science and engineering data before it is sent to Earth by the Telemetry Modulation Unit.
On March 3rd, the Voyager mission team saw activity from one section of the FDS that differed from the rest of the computer's unreadable data stream. The new signal was still not in the format used by Voyager-1 when the FDS is working properly, so the team wasn't initially sure what to make of it. But an engineer with the agency's Deep Space Network, which operates the radio antennas that communicate with both Voyagers and other spacecraft traveling to the Moon and beyond, was able to decode the new signal and found that it contained a readout of the entire FDS memory. In other words, it was an unsolicited or self-initiated memory dump. The FDS memory includes its code or instructions for what to do, as well as variables or values used in the code that can change based on commands or the spacecraft status. It also contains science or engineering data for downlink. The team will compare this readout to the one that came down before the issue arose and look for discrepancies in the code and the variables to potentially find the source of the ongoing issue. Furthermore,
this new signal resulted from a command sent to Voyager-1 on March 1st. Called a poke by the team, the command is meant to gently prompt the FDS to try different sequences in its software package, in case the issue could be resolved by going around a corrupted section. However, the team didn't want to risk sending another signal to the X-band transmitter and trigger the fault protection system again. So instead, a command was sent to the S-band transmitter on October 22nd. 2 days later, on October 24th, the team was finally able to reconnect with Voyager-1.
Now, the team will investigate what may have triggered the spacecraft's fault protection system in the first place, given that Voyager-1 should have had ample power to operate the heater. However, it may be weeks before operators identify the underlying issue, according to the statement. On March 7th, engineers began working to decode the data, and on March 10th, they determined that it contained a memory readout. The team is analyzing the readout, using that information to devise a potential solution, and attempting to put it into action will take time. The initial analysis of the unusable signal determined that the signal was a binary stream of ones and zeros and appeared to not contain any useful information. However, further analysis detected a repeated binary pattern. This is where it gets very interesting. According to one source, the pattern was analyzed by a quantum chip AI computer and produced images of human faces and a body, composed of known symbols and Sumerian symbols. This information apparently came from researchers involved in the project. However, these reports have not been confirmed since NASA is a government agency. Here is some of what has been reported.
The signal produced the mirror image of a human face, and it also produced a humanoid, with a body that was traversed with mathematical lines and formulas. The signal appeared to copy/mirror the observer. Since it is a signal that appears to come from beneath the threshold of our physical reality, could it or its originators bypass our rational minds and, like the installation of a program on a computer, penetrate deeply into the structure of our brains. As a result of this existential question, NASA scientists immediately shut down the computer.
In other words, the scientists said if they looked at the image, the face appeared to change to reflect their faces. It was also reported that the mysterious unusable signal came from a transmitter that hasn't been used since 1981, rather than the main downlink transmitter. That is one of the questions the scientists couldn't explain. How did the transmitter get activated, and why wasn't the main one used? This event seems to corroborate the theory that particles in this dimension can be interacted with from the parent dimension. Also, the inclusion of Sumerian symbols points to the first Western civilization of the cradle. This brings to mind a study from another volume of the Symbology of the Bible series, which will follow this article.